Tonight we'll be covering the 8th lesson in the Kosher kitchen. Yes, I'm aware we didn't do 7 and 6. Not to worry, I can send you those. It deals with, I think, Patakum and I think Chav Yisrael. Very important topics, but I really want to focus on kashrut, and all other issues of what you can and can't eat. I think if we can do that at the end of the year, that just might be a little bit better. Okay, so when I was preparing for tonight's lesson, I think a lot of the topic for today, I really want to just focus on what's very practical and useful, and a couple of these concepts were repeated elsewhere, and if I can cover 8 and even a little bit of 9, which is what this morning I decided, this afternoon I decided to send out 9 as well, I really like to do so. Here we'll see how far we can actually get. So the question is, and I really want to jump right away to page 3, there are 3, the Torah says in 3 different places, Lo tevashal gdiba chalevimo. That literally speaking, you're not allowed to cook a kid in his mother's milk. We're going to break down each one of those words over the next little while, but the fact that the same pasuk is reiterated 3 times, Chazal said, you know what, there's 3 different messages, there's 3 different concepts, and all 3 are biblical, all 3 are going to be min Torah. And what are they? 1, you're not allowed to cook milk and meat together, but not only can you not cook milk and meat together, you can't even eat a mixture that has milk and meat, right? So you're not allowed to cook it, you can't eat this combination, and 3, you're not allowed to get any hana, you cannot benefit from milk and meat. Now that is a tremendous chidush, because generally speaking, for example, pig. You can't eat pig, but in theory you could cook it, you could benefit from it, you can wear a crocodile belt, you can wear a leather baseball glove, but when it comes to milk and meat, you cannot derive any benefit from this combination. Now, it's going to need to be a combination, a mixture min Torah. That's what we have to define. Not all milk and meat together is actually a biblical prohibition, an Isur D'Oraisa, and only the Isur D'Oraisa min Torah will be asur to get hana from. So I have to exactly distinguish that over the next little while. Okay, what does it mean to benefit from milk and meat? What do you mean? So I can't, let's say, give it to a non-Jew. I can't sell it. I can't give it to my dog, right? So in theory, this might be a little bit difficult. If you had a dog food that actually contained in it milk and meat, under certain situations, you would not be able to give it to your dog because you're benefiting, you're getting hana from milk and meat. Okay? So, let's continue. So first of all, what's the reason? What's the rationale behind it? We know there's Tamei HaMitzvos. We know that many different Rishonim, many different scholars wrote what's the reason behind all the mitzvahs in the Torah. Although traditionally milk and meat, basar v'chalav, has been understood to be a chok, which often is translated as a mitzvah that's not necessarily rational, right? There's definitely many different reasons that are given for this Isser. If you take a look at the bottom of page 73, a couple of reasons are actually listed here. One is the Rambam. The Rambam mentions this in many different places, that actually it has to do with Avodah Zarah. That it was some type of pagan ritual to mix milk and meat together. Perhaps specifically they would do this around their festivities. Because that pasuk actually comes in Parshat Mishpatim. Mentioned with the Shlosh Regalim. So the Rambam says from here, what's the juxtaposition? When you do your regel, when you celebrate with God, don't mix meat and milk together like, says the Rambam, the pagans do. Some type of idol worship, some type of avodah zarah. Okay, Rabbeinu Bechaye mentions there that it's just unhealthy, which I would say you survey your local non-Jew or perhaps secular Jew. Oh, it's unhealthy, right? And that's what some people claim. And the Zohar, based on Torah Hasod, on the mystical teaching, the Zohar actually says milk is rachamim. By the way, it's like white, right? White is like merciful. Think of Yom Kippur. And meat, which is dark, which is filled with blood, which is red, that's actually din. And the truth is, we see that too because milk is a life force to a child, to an animal, to a mammal. It needs its mother's milk to survive, and as opposed to meat and flesh, which is death, and perhaps which is a life force, should not mix with a death force, so to speak. He goes on to say that cooking is forbidden because it's the harmony of the universe, and ingesting is the food that corrupts the soul, and benefiting is like destroys the idea of creation, which kind of separates different things. All right, and of course there are others who just want to totally shy away from giving reasons for this Isser, and the reason that's actually what the Fri Jul mentions. Regardless of the reason behind it, it doesn't really matter. It is still Isser, it is still forbidden to cook, to eat, and to benefit from basar v'chalav mixture. Okay, what about, take a look now in the middle on page 74. Even when milk and meat are not actually cooked together, there's still an Isser d'Rabbanan that it's Isser to eat this milk and meat, even if there's just a ta'am of one mixed into the other. So if a little bit of taste of ta'am of the milk goes into meat, you still would not be allowed to eat this meat. So even though it wasn't cooked together, if somehow the taste of milky taste, somehow transferred into this meat, you would not be allowed to eat this meat as well. However, if it's just a little bit of taste, if there's ta'am, but there's actually no real milk, then actually there's no Isser Hana'ah. That's already almost like 2 stages away, and you'd be allowed to, let's say, take that piece of meat that has a milky taste, no milk, but just a milky taste, and say give it to a non-Jew, give it to your dog to eat. Okay. He mentions here that if you actually eat a kazayis of this milk meat of basar v'chalav, what's the punishment? It's malchus, it's a love. Let's turn the page. This is really important, extremely practical. Ingesting in capsule form. Take the Pischei Tshuva, a very well-known commentary on Shulchan Aruch, adds the name of the Rambam that basar v'chalav is forbidden even if it is eaten in an unusual manner. For example, let's say I create a medicine. For whatever reason, the pharmacist creates a concoction that if you take in this capsule that has in it this combination of milk and meat, that's going to be it's going to help you with a cold, it's going to help you with fever, it's going to with whatever the case may be, right? You're not eating it. Medicine isn't food. As we all know, you don't make a bracha on medicine, right? It's not food. But you wouldn't be allowed to even eat such a capsule. Why? Because you are still some type of benefit from it. Even abnormal achila would be forbidden. Now, this is a major, that's a chiddush, but this is very important for a non-basar v'chalav topic, which comes up all the time. What about if I have a capsule that has non-kosher food in it? The classic example is, of course, gelatin. Gelatin is very important. What was that? You said gelatin. What did you say?
Yeah.
You said gelatin. Yeah. Gelatin is very important. Gelatin is a binding agent. It has no medicinal benefit whatsoever. It is used in a capsule to kind of put things together, a binding agent. Would you be allowed to have a capsule that has gelatin in it? Gelatin is a derivative of pig, right? Pig fat. So would you be allowed to eat a capsule? Now, if you take a look at a lot of capsules, a lot of them are going to lose gelatin. You'll find them sometimes in toothpaste. You can sometimes find them in mouthwash. Various things that you'd be surprised how common gelatin is in many things. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? It comes along the source and says the following. Shar Isurim are forbidden only when they are consumed in a normal, enjoyable manner. For example, if medication was made from Shar Isurim, it would be permitted to swallow it if it contained in a vegetable-based capsule, since the content of the forbidden food is ingested in an unusual manner, i.e., inside a capsule. Oh, what's that? There's this medicine that you take. That's in a capsule. You have a cold. Cold effects. Thank you very much. Cold effects. The capsule is gelatin. It says on it. I called them up. I looked into it, and the capsule is gelatin, but none of the medicinal ingredients are gelatin. They're all, herbs or whatever the case may be. So would you be allowed to take medicine that has a gelatin based in it? So he says here, what do you mean? That's not a chila, not eating it. So therefore, he says it would be permitted. Additionally, no pleasure is derived from the taste. There's no taste in this capsule. However, it is forbidden to eat basar v'chalav even if it's inside a capsule, or if it has been made bitter, or even moldy. So even if basar v'chalav becomes moldy, I don't recommend ever eating moldy food, but again, not even basar v'chalav, that person would be allowed to eat. And the Rambam says, because actually it's learned from the fact that Torah never uses the word eating to forbid it. Meaning, most food, it says, lo, you're not allowed to eat nevela. You're not allowed to eat chazir. You're not allowed to eat things that are forbidden. It never says, don't eat basar v'chalav. It says, lo tevashelgdi. And we learn from there, you're not allowed to eat it. Since the Rambam learns, it never says, lo tocha basar v'chalav. It's on a higher level. It's not a matter of eating. The eating is much more, shall we say, overarching. And therefore, even if you were to eat something in an unusual manner, it's still forbidden. Okay? As opposed to pig, as opposed to a treifa. That being said, there's no question, it is still preferable, all things being equal, to try and find medicine that doesn't have gelatin in it. If you ask people more in the Hasidic world, they'll be more machmir on even gelatin because of what's called timtum halev. That maybe non-kosher food has, this in the Zohar, has some type of effect, spiritual effect on your body, and therefore perhaps it should be avoided. I'm going to be honest, when it comes to cold effects, I actually open up the capsule, I shake out the content of the orange juice, and that's how I take it. So I try to avoid the capsule. It's very easy to do that. If it was the type of medicine, I don't know if I'd go still Meshuggah and do that, simply because cold effects is not really a medicine, it's kind of like prevention. I don't know if it's even, someone in pharmacy told me that it has no benefit whatsoever. I don't know, maybe it's useful. I have no idea, maybe it's psychological, but that because it's not really a medicine, so I think there a person should try to be a little more stringent. Toothpaste also, if it has gelatin in it, there's no reason, there's so many different types of toothpaste out there, try to avoid one that has it, but again, it's not food, right? It's not food at all, we see that clearly, there's really no, I can't tell you it's usher to do, try to avoid it. Yeah.
I just want to clarify, so that's not a problem with milk and meat, it's just a problem with being safe.
Again, a capsule that was made of milk and meat would be very problematic.
Right.
Whereas a capsule, there's more than to be lenient. But non-kosher food, there's more than to be lenient.
Okay.
Yeah. But a capsule, I don't believe, I can't say anything else about everything. The pharmacist, if there be a capsule that actually had milk and meat together, it should be avoided. Although that being said, as we're going to learn soon, the Isser D'Oraisa of milk and meat is actually kosher milk with kosher meat. The chances of it being kosher milk and kosher meat that they're combining together, creating a capsule, are slim to none. As far as I know, there's only one place that intentionally cooked kosher milk and meat together. That was a McDonald's in Yerushalayim. They actually used kosher hamburgers with kosher cheese, and they would cook them together. So that'd be a problem. Most places, we're going to find kosher milk and kosher cheese cooked together. It's pretty hard to do that. So, okay. Let's go on. Of course, as you all know, we're going to need the right amount of temperature in order to make this transfer. Again, we've done this again, so I don't want to focus on it. If we can just turn the page. I would say the only real issue that we have to be careful with when it comes to milk and meat is, believe it or not, if you're cooking milk and meat and you're discarding it in your garbage can. Hopefully it's not going to happen in your sink. But potentially, if you have very hot meat that you just threw out, and you want to discard milchiks in your garbage, if they're joining together in a garbage can, joining in the sink, that could be problematic. It might not be an issue of D'Oraisa. The chances of them being both very hot are unlikely, right? But it could be an issue of D'Rabbanan, right? A rabbinic prohibition if both of them are hot, even in a cliche. So that's the only time I could maybe concoct in your regular daily use. When would you ever cook milk and meat together? I mean, you might do it by accident, right? That does happen. Where you sprinkle, actually, someone that was in town from Los Angeles. They were cooking in someone's home, and for whatever reason, they see margarine. To them, margarine is always parv, and this margarine wasn't parv. This margarine was mochek, and they actually cooked it with meat, right? So I guess there's an example of cooking milk and meat together. That's not so good. But really, those are the most people are more cognizant than aware of that to avoid. Sometimes you're not always aware of your garbage cans or your sinks, maybe that you might mix by accident, milk me together. So that's just to be, you should be very careful about. Sorry?
What would be the issue with the
So that but remember, there's an issue to cook milk and meat together. That's the difference, right? Meaning there's no issue to cook pig in theory, right? But here, if the meat is hot and the milchik is hot, or if the meat is hot and the milchik is just being poured on it and it's cooking together, so even though we did mention it has to be hot enough, what's called 110 degrees yad so lighted bow in order to be considered cooking. It has to be, remember this, in a kli rishon, the fire either that was placed on the fire or just removed from the fire. In order to be an isur d'oraisa, it'd be an isur d'rabbanan if it was in a kli sheni, because a kli sheni thing can still cook, right? So therefore, even in a kli sheni, which maybe is your garbage can, potentially, if you just took a pot off the fire and then dumped that in the garbage, you could, in theory, cook milk and meat together in your garbage. You should be very careful about that. Okay. Now, that being said, many people really that the only issur from the Torah is cooking is the prohibition is one from the Torah, and even if the cooking is prohibited, one may not derive benefit from the mixture. If the prohibition is an issur d'Rabbanan, the only issur is on the eating. So there are, in fact, more room to be leaving it in your garbage if it's cooled off. Then really it's not real cooking. But I think potentially you could create a situation where it's very, very hot, right, in your garbage can. Again, that's not that common, but it could be if both items are very hot. Maybe you are doing that cooking in your garbage. All right, if you look on page 77, things again you have to be careful about. I don't want to spend too much time because we've encountered this before. That's irur, that's flowing. If they're both in a kli sheni, perhaps they might cook. If the hot food falls onto cold food, perhaps there's the top layer, what's called kedei klipa. If hot food falls onto cold food, then your top layer of your the top layer would become isur mid'Rabbanan. If you're roasting it, if you're frying it or salting it, again, your milk and meat together. I don't think these things are that common to do. Most people know to avoid them. All right, let's jump all the way to 78, please. I mentioned this before. We'll read it again at the bottom. It shouldn't even be given to a stray dog where no one has benefit. Meaning when we talk about, if, for example, we do cook milk and meat together, you can't get any benefit whatsoever from it. If by accident, let's say you did cook it in your pot, what should you do with it? You can't sell it. You can't give it to your neighbor. You can't give it to a dog. You'd have to actually flush it down the toilet. The only way to discard milk and meat that's been cooked together, is to flush it down the toilet. All right. Let's talk about for a second. When we talk about milk, so the Torah says lo tevasho gedi b'chalevimo. So what about milk that's not from its mother? The Torah seems just to say what's asur to do: take a kid and cook this kid in its mother's milk. Well, what are the chances of the meat that I have? I'm cooking it with the milk belongs to its mother. So that's not how it is understood. This pasuk is not to be taken literally, but rather the Torah only mentions not cooking a baby goat in its mother's milk as an example. And the Aruch HaShulchan on page 79 says we can make a deduction from mother's milk to other milk as follows. Even though mother's milk and the baby goat were at one time in the same body, still the Torah says they're asur to cook together. All the more so milk from other kosher animals is forbidden if cooked with the baby goat or other kosher animal meat, they were never from the same body. I'll give you an example, meaning you could argue and say, wait a minute, why should the milk of this mother be forbidden with the kid? It's like the same species, it's the same entity almost. In fact, at one point in time, they were one entity. And if they are asur to eat together, then how much more so random milk with random meat? Okay? That's how it's understood. Sorry?
It's not the opposite that, like, if it's from the same animal, then like it shouldn't be together at all because like that's like the utmost form of like mixing like life and death.
Life and death.
And other animals is not such a big deal because you're taking milk of one animal
And combine with another. Look, I think that's why we have to be careful of the rationale behind it, and then what can you derive from it. Although you could say the opposite, that it's true. It's probably more cruel to cook. You know what I mean? The irony. Here's your mother, and here's the kid being the milk being cooked together. There's some type of irony behind it. But I think at the same time, it's the cruelty of what provides life for the kid that I think we have to focus on as well. But it's true, you're right. You could argue that as well. So that's really it's lesson 8 is not a very meaty, lesson. Essentially, just to summarize, what I think the main points are. There are 3 Isurei D'Oraita. We are much more machmir by cooking milk and meat together than we are, because you can't get any benefit from it whatsoever. The real Isur D'Oraisa will be kosher meat with kosher milk, which is going to be pretty hard to do in the world out there. In your own homes, potentially in a garbage, there might be a situation. And like I said, the only place that I know of that does it with intent regularly is unfortunately the McDonald's in Yerushalayim. At least it did last time that I looked into it. And in the event that you do by accident cook milk and meat in your home, you would have to discard it. The best thing to do would be to flush it down the toilet. Okay, let's go to the next lesson, because there's a lot of issues that are extremely, extremely relevant on a regular basis. And maybe this actually will help you'll understand a lot of things that certain restaurants do, and see our policy. You'll see it'll become a lot clearer. Extremely practical, this lesson 9. Yeah?
Do you literally have to flush it down the toilet, or can you put it in the garbage?
So it's interesting. You put it, let's say, in a green bin. I guess you probably could too. I don't think you're benefiting it by putting it in the green bin. Right? What benefit would you get if you have more food in the green bin? Would an animal come and eat from it? I don't think so. That's for sure not your intent, right? No one wants their green bins and garbage bins to be picked up by an animal. So, you could.
So eating a cheeseburger, it's like a burger with cheese and not. It's not technically Isur D'Oraisa.
Okay, so the meat is an Isur D'Oraisa. That's a nevela. That's right. Meaning, are you transgressing the basar v'chalav Isur D'Oraisa? Probably not, because the meat's not kosher, and the cheese isn't kosher. So if the cheese is hot enough, you could. I mean, I don't know how hot.
If you're eating cold milk.
Right, so that would not be an Isur D'Oraisa. Right, that's not. When we talk about a mixture here, it has to be a heat combination, not a. They're both cold. You're right. That would not be a real combination, because it's the combination, and to have a combination halachically, you need a medium of heat. Yeah. Right. I don't know how hot the cheese is, or I don't know. Maybe it's the burger is so hot and it kind of melts the cheese. That could also be. I don't know the whole lunch, but not for sure. Okay, this is lots of fun. All right, the first thing is that which meat is included. It doesn't just mean a kid. It means all sheep, all cattle, and all sheep. Let's read this. Nevela. The Gemara then tells us that each time the Torah says the word gedi, it comes to include something and exclude something. Among the things included are nevela. A nevela is an animal categorized as kosher that was not slaughtered properly. So, for example, if you have a cow, and this cow was hit by a car, the real technical term is that cow is now a nevela, right? We use the word treif, that's just because that's the colloquial language for it. But the real terminology is a nevela. A nevela is subject to the prohibition of basar b'chalav, meaning if you did have a dead cow that wasn't shechted properly, and you took this meat and you mixed it with milk, you would be in violation of basar v'chalav. And even though you can't eat it, there's still this isser. The answer is according to what we learned. Even though the meat is not kosher, you still can't cook it with milk. So, for example, this could be practical, or I don't know, not so practical, but you couldn't benefit if, let's say, there was some type of a cow. So all cows are kosher, but if it's a non-kosher restaurant, so that cow wasn't shechted properly, that cow would still be subject to basar v'chalav. this could become relevant in terms of an industry with benefiting from, with buying and purchasing and selling. That could be an issue. There actually was a time where I think he was an owner or majority of McDonald's Canada, was actually a Jewish guy. So, I don't know. There's a lot of complications with that.
So how much you're benefiting from just in a Mela, like if you're dealing with just...
Definitely not on a biblical level. There is an Issa D'Rabbanan that you're making money is off of the treif industry. That could be an Issa D'Rabbanan. Yeah, that might be if you have a partner. Are you benefiting directly, indirectly? Yeah. Can you flip burgers for a summer job at McDonald's? Right? So you really shouldn't. With the cash. Okay. Tamei. One of the things excluded from the word gid, or gdi, is tamei. Tamei means a non-kosher species, a pig or a horse. There is no Torah prohibition to cook let's say a horse, with milk, and could even derive benefit from that mixture. Therefore, according to the Torah, you can prepare a ham and cheese sandwich for a non-Jew. There could be other issues with doing that, but that's it from a biblical, a Raisa perspective. You could prepare it. We'll get to these issues, which are very, very practical. Chicken, as you're familiar with. Chicken is only an Isser D'Rabbanan, but chicken, essentially, we will not use too many leniencies in terms of D'Rabbanan by chicken, and we really treat it almost like full-fledged regular meat. Despite the fact there was a Rabbi Yosef Glili, which is quoted here, he had a minhag to treat chicken not like meat. Nonetheless, that was not the minhag, and the entire all Jewish communities accepted that chicken was in fact meat. Okay? All right, turn the page, please. Okay, this is probably one of the most practical components of everything, Marit Ayin. Marit Ayin literally means, what are people going to see? Now, Marit Ayin, if you do something, and other people might interpret it as being something else, it's actually your problem. Right? Meaning, you have to do things that if other people were to see them in normative situations, we'll see what that means in a second, if it appears, if this could be misconstrued to be something else, that would actually could be problematic. So, and by the way, it's not necessarily because they're going to think that you're a wicked person. Oh my goodness, look at Greenberg, he's doing something wrong. No, they might say what? Oh, that's actually permissible to do. So it's not necessarily that they're going to think ill of you. Oh my goodness, you're a hypocrite. Oh my goodness, you're a terrible person. It could also be that, oh, that is actually permitted and I didn't know that. Because after all, they're doing it. So it's not, again, because they might say, oh, you're wicked, you're a Rasha, you're not from, whatever. No, it's also, they might walk around saying, oh, I didn't know that was permitted to do. After all, Greenberg's doing it. Okay. Here's example number one. Take a look at that third paragraph. Exactly. This is part of a narrative which I'm not interested in reading whatsoever. That is why, although we learned before that cooking tameh with milk is permitted according to the Torah, meaning you're actually allowed to take a horse and cook it in milk. There's nothing wrong with cooking a horse in milk. And let's say, by the way, you needed to do this because of the industry that you're in. Whether it's a pharmacy, whether it's medicine, whether it's, let's say it's in order to make a baseball glove. I doubt this is the case. But let's say you needed to take the leather and you needed to cook it in milk in order to soften it up. I made that up completely. I'm sure there must be something that milk and meat together would be useful to do. You're actually not allowed to do it. Because people might see you cook and might think that you are cooking regular meat, or will come to think that cooking milk and meat is actually permitted. Therefore, it is usher to cook tameh, meaning a horse or a pig, with milk. Now, what about if this is done in an industrial plant? That's a different story. But this should not be done in a kitchen. Right? If it's done in some warehouse, in an industry, okay, that could be a different ballgame. No one's going to think that's permitted, right? That's a warehouse, that's a factory. But in your kitchen, that could actually be problematic. Okay? And that's actually the ruling of the Ramah. That's what he says in Shulchan Aruch and Yeridea. Rabbi David ben Shmuel Halevi, which is called the Taz, brings reasons why there should not be maris ayin when cooking tamei meat with milk, but in reverence to Ramah, bends to his opinion, and actually the Taz, who comes after Ramah, tries to say, no, it's not maris ayin, but in the end of the day, he gives in to the Ramah. Okay, this, by the way, would also, it applies to cooking chicken with milk, right? Because why can't you cook chicken with milk? It's not basar v'chalav. No, we still do not cook chicken with milk, even though there's nothing wrong with it. It's a problem of marit ayin. Okay? Now, you might have seen this before. You go to a wedding, and do you have to place, right now, actually, I was just at a l'chaim, and they were serving coffee. It was a dessert, but you see the things at weddings. Do you have to put next to that soy milk or that creamer that this is a non-dairy creamer? Right? Why? Maybe it's a problem of marit ayin. If you're serving almond milk is of course par. But am I obligated to put up a sign that says this is non-dairy, this is almond milk? Do I have to make such a statement in a catering hall? Right? So here's the issue. When it first came out, you probably had to. Now, I think, it is culturally accepted, right? It is self-understood that you can serve such items without having to put up a sign, because I think people know today that is, I think, the case with, they serve ice cream at a wedding, right? You don't need to put up a sign to say this is a non-dairy ice cream. I think, what?
Not everyone knows.
What do you mean? You're saying if you have,
Like if people there aren't.
so they might think, oh my goodness, they're now serving, right? So interesting. You're saying if you, let's say, have a large clientele which might not know that it's non-dairy, maybe then you should put up a sign to let them know that you're not doing it.
What do you know, like putting up a sign, like sign a chicken, like this is kosher? Like how would anyone know? You know, you walk into a wedding and you assume that it's kosher. You know?
So here's the rule: any non-shul hall, they have to put up a sign COR. You go to the Paradise, you go to the Paramount, you go to all those halls, they must put up a sign. This is under COR. It'll be on certain tables. Ever seen that before? But certain tables will have the sign. This is under COR. Mashiach has to sign his name. So that is COR policy. Because you're right. Because you go there on another night, it's actually not kosher, right? So when a hall is always kosher, which is a shul, for example, right? So then you don't need to put out a sign. It's under COR. But if it's a place that has both kosher and non-kosher possibilities, they must put up a sign because of marit ayin, right? That it's only kosher tonight and not on next Tuesday. Yeah. Okay. So it appears when it comes to ice creams, when it comes to creamers in today's world, you do not need to put out a sign that it's soy or whatever the case may be. I have seen certain places that do still put out this is non-dairy creamer. I have seen it. Maybe because of certain clientele that were there. I actually think it's good educational policy to do that because it'll cause people to actually think of the issue. Do you need to do it, or do most people assume? I think most people would assume, but I think Ariel's point is well taken, that you don't know. You could have someone coming in, they're like, oh, cool, this is, then they'll taste it and be like, oh, this is disgusting, right? But, all right, there is what to gain from it, maybe. Now, take a look at on page 84, a heker. The Talmud states that fish blood in a cup is forbidden to drink. This is because all milkers will think he's drinking animal blood. However, again, this isn't so common in the world we live in today. If fish scales are placed on the side of the cup, it is permitted, because the onlooker will not think that it's permitted to drink any kind of blood, and they will see this is fish blood in the cup. This is the source for a heker. And what would be a heker? Putting up a sign to say this is non-dairy creamer, this is almond milk, this is soy base. All those things are called the heker, and if you're worried about marit ayin, you really should put out a sign, this is what it is. Now, this goes a step further. the Rashal goes one step further. Even if the prohibition is only midirabanan and not a doraisa, meaning if I drink blood from an animal, that's an isur doraisa. So maybe you might think, oh, this is a biblical prohibition, you need a heker. No, even a derabanan, you're going to need a heker. We're still concerned what onlookers might think. Therefore, the Rashal says that one should place almond next to milk when eating chicken and almond milk together, even though this combination is mutter, even according to the rabbis. We have almond milk and chicken. Even if that was regular milk and chicken, that combo is only an isur meat derabanan, because it's chicken, which is not a real meat. Nonetheless, even if you're serving chicken with almond milk, you need to put up a sign to say this is almond milk, this is parv, and not milchik. It's let others know the person is not eating chicken with milk together, which is only isur derabanan. Okay. Others argue that no, you only need a heker when it's a doraisa. Halacha l'maisa, actually, we really will try to put up a sign. So that's what someone else wants to say. Why leniency? Meaning, I'll give you an example. When you're serving coffee at a wedding, there's no meat anymore. You can't eat meat anymore. I mean, I guess you could eat meat. The meat's been cleared up. So even if you were to have milk, you're not really eating milk and meat together. You ate your meat an hour ago, right? Or I served chicken at my wedding. So really, maybe there's no problem. So that's another room to be lenient, why people don't always put up a sign by dessert at a wedding, because you're really not eating milk and meat together. And maybe you're eating chicken, in which case you're not eating it together, you're going to get an hour later, and maybe most people know about it, so there are room to be lenient not to put up a sign by dessert at a wedding. But again, I think for educational purposes, there might be something to gain from it. Yeah, question. Yeah, I was going to say, well, when you peel off your third layer of tinfoil...
No, because, somebody at the table across the room doesn't know. That they're not going to come, they'll say, oh, that person over there is eating. It's a real issue, it's happened before. So, like, that person across the room is going to say, oh, this family's eating.
This family's eating.
Then, therefore, it's better to split.
Well, that's a question. So... because Marit Ayin is more not is on that other person thinking, oh, it's really kosher, right? It's not that, oh my goodness, look at the Cohen family over there, such hypocrites. They walk around saying they're kosher, and look, they're eating at this event, right? What would they say? Oh, look, it must be kosher because Cohen's eating here, and Cohen are upscale Jews, so therefore it might be a kosher event. If there's really a chashash to think that, it could be an issue. That's why some people like actually sitting at a separate kosher table, or at least putting up a sign that says this is kosher. I think if you have the tinfoil, if you have enough signs on your table, then I think it might be less of an issue. But you really should have a sign that your food is different. Sometimes they try to mock the non-kosher food, right? But even then, they're not going to be serving it on a china plate, right? I don't think they do that. Anyone have that before? That will give you a china on a nice plate.
On a real dish,
It will give you a real dish.
It's
They
wrapped
wrap it
up,
up, right?
I mean, technically, I guess the waiters could, if they wanted to be nice, they could unwrap it before they take it out and carry it to your plate.
They're not allowed to. Don't let you. You have to see it. Right. No, you mentioned
no matter what, you're going to have the tinfoil.
No matter what. No, I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to make you open it, and then because it's not high class, they're going to, once you've seen it, they'll stand next to you, remove all of it. That's what they're going to do. Right? And then you're sitting now with potentially a nice plate, beautiful silverware. You know what they do, by the way? Then they just trafe it up again. That's what they do. Like, if you go to the Hyatt, but the Hyatt has kosher food a couple nights a week. So what they do is actually very simple. They get brand new dishes, and then they just put them back in the tray section. The next night, they do brand new dishes over and over again. That's why they charge you so much money, right? So the dishes that you're having are brand new, and they're as good quality, so they're serving the table next to you. Wow.
When I was at the Hyatt.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Our tables all set up, like there was like an orange juice, like a container of orange. Like the whole table looked different, even though the food was not the same. Like it was noticeable. Like
that was different. Right. So I like that. I like the idea that it looks different. Despite the fact that we want to blend in and not highlight the fact that it's, the only bright. I once went to a conference 1,000 people. I ordered kosher food, but they brought it to me. Everyone's looking at me because I had 20 layers saran wrap. Yeah.
That's so embarrassing.
Yeah. It's hi guys, how you doing? I'll get to my food eventually. Yeah. And they're like, oh, that looks really good. It's kosher. I'm not giving you any. It's all I can eat. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It's look, we can't. As difficult as it is, we can't be embarrassed for doing the right thing. As easy it is to say, but we can't be embarrassed. We're eating kosher food in a crowd of 1,000 people. What are you going to do? The truth is, I'll tell you, we should be embarrassed. The people who invited you should be embarrassed that they didn't get kosher food, right? If that they weren't able to provide food for all their guests equally, that you did something special for you. So I went to my cousin's bat mitzvah when she was 13, and in Miami, and they unfortunately didn't take care of us. I was 7 years old, and they gave me grape juice to make kiddush. I was okay. I remember very little from this bat mitzvah. A few things I remember, and my parents remind me of on a regular basis. I started crying. I know the grape juice was kosher, so because my parents said you can't eat anything, we'll eat later, whatever, right? I don't remember what they said to me. So they gave me grape juice to make kiddush. I was crying, right? Grape juice is kosher. You can't get non-kosher grape juice. It was kedem or whatever, right? But I was oh my goodness, it's not kosher. But anyway, this is true story. When that same trip, I also look at orange, right? I eat this orange. I don't know. The truth is now, oranges actually might not be kosher. I mean, only not in chutzars, in Israel, right? Potentially orange could be a problem. Not so much in Toronto, unless it's from Israel. All right, off topic, but it's important. Okay, what about? I dove more, so I can actually continue another few more minutes. What about private versus public? This is actually at the bottom of page 84. The Nachlas Tzvi explains the Ramah actually agrees fundamentally that Maris Ayin applies even when dealing with rabbinic prohibitions. That really we have to be careful when it comes to Isser D'Rabbanan. The Ramah is discussing a case where the person is cooking the chicken together with almond milk in the privacy of his own home. So let's say I'm in my own kitchen, no one's going to see me, no windows, no one's going to look into my kitchen, and I'm cooking chicken and almond milk. Am I obligated to put up a sign that says this is almond milk? No one's going to see me. In such a case, he doesn't require making a heker there, since those who are with him are aware he's only cooking it with almond milk and not with regular cow's milk. So the Ramah usually wants to ensure that even if there's only a rabbinic prohibition, you still need a heker of some sort. What about if you're in the confines of your own home? Maybe in such a case you wouldn't have to do it because your friend who's with you in your house knows that it's almond milk. In such a case, you might not need a heker. But in a public area, at a wedding, at a banquet, such a situation, you should perhaps put up a sign. And when the Gemara explains the concept of Maris Ayin applies to private locations, I'm going to explain. The Gemara says that Maris Ayin applies to, the phrase is Chadrei Chadarim. Even in the privacy of one's own home, there's still Maris Ayin. This is very practical when it comes to Israelis. It's not going to Yom Tov and Chutzars. Right? I don't know why it is. Israelis has this thing that second day they can do whatever they want. It's very problematic. Second day Yom Tov in Chutzars is Yom Tov. It's Yom Tov. And even in the privacy of one's own home, you cannot violate, be careful of potential Maris Ayin. That, however, only might be the case for a biblical prohibition. So since this person is cooking almond milk with chicken in the privacy of their own home, since it's only the Rabbanan, a rabbinic prohibition, there might not be a problem of Maris Ayin from, let's say, a window. But otherwise, if it was a biblical prohibition that they might be worried about, let's say there wasn't chicken, let's say it was actually steak meat, maybe in such a case, they wouldn't, as crazy it may sound, have to have some type of heker, because Maris Ayin does apply in this term called Chadrei Chadarim, in the inner chambers of a room. You have to be very careful about. Yeah.
What about you get all this soy meat now? You can't mix it with chicken? With cheese? With cheese.
So again, if it's common, I remember, when I first got married, someone gave my wife great advice. buy soy meat, you'll never know the difference. You'll never know. My wife prepared a dish. She didn't tell me. It's terrible. Oh, this person told me. You never know. You know. She's like, people know. It's not the same. I don't know. I don't think today there's an issue of soy. You know, like the soy patties, the soy burger. They look, their texture is different. Their color is different. Their taste is different. No, I think so. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem today. Maybe again, right in the beginning, the first year that these things started happening was a problem. But I don't think today. I mean, again, you can disagree with me, but I don't think today it would be. People would get confused. I think it looks so different. That's the hecker. That it looks different. It cooks different. Tastes different. People are vegetarian here and cook with it at all. Yeah, and
but they have stuff that looks like it now.
It really.
Like ground meat, fake ground meat.
And it really looks the same. You could fake out somebody.
It doesn't taste the same, but you could.
But even when you cook it though, the cooking is different. There's different smells. It browns like regular meat.
No, it's already like cooked.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's already cooked. You don't need to cook it really, right? It's okay. You keep thinking that. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, let's continue reading. However, regarding rabbinic prohibitions, there's no marisa if the act is done in private. This is why the Ramah does not require showing a heker by chicken cooked with almond milk, but does require a differentiation by meat cooked in almond milk, even in private. We are more lenient with chicken, since even when it's cooked with quote-unquote regular milk, it's only an issur d'Rabbanan. Therefore, in private, there's no concern where people might think when cooking chicken with almond milk. Members of the household do not make it a public setting, since we assume they know that it's only almond milk. However, actually cooking meat and milk together is an issur d'oraisa, and therefore, when cooking it with almond milk, it requires a heker even in the privacy of one's home, which is that already is something which people might not necessarily know about. I don't know how many of you actually cook with almond milk. I actually believe cooking with almond milk is going to become more popular over time. It's a little expensive, no? Almond milk is expensive, but I think there's a lot of nutritional benefit in almond milk. Way healthier than I think a lot of soy products as well. Right? There's issue with soy. What's the problem with soy? They say something estrogen in it, right? That might be problematic. You're supposed to, if you avoid meat and you think this is more healthy and you're really not healthy, so you can't like anything. Just either eat everything, or don't eat anything. It doesn't anything else in between. It's just none one or the other. All right. When it comes to ice cream at a meat dinner, so I believe that. Most people assume that the ice cream is in fact part of. If really people might make a mistake, okay, then in fact, put a heker there. Again, it might not be eaten with it, so there might be room for leniency not to put a heker because it's only issur d'Rabbanan eating this ice cream later. Maybe you don't need a heker. I kind of mentioned that. I mentioned that as well. Okay. Let's stop here for now. We're going to continue on page 86. We don't have that much more to do to finish this. We'll talk about eggs and why are eggs parv. Maybe eggs should be fleishik, no? Don't they come from a meat or from a chicken? We'll talk about that, God willing, next week. Thank you.